and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Luella Fernandez, Director of Quocirca, and today I'm delighted to welcome John Bruno, Chief Operating Officer and President of Xerox. Today we'll be discussing Xerox's reinvention strategy and John's views on changing customer and market dynamics. So welcome to the show, John. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I know you've had a really interesting career history prior to Xerox, particularly in the technology sector as a CIO. Could you tell us a bit about that background and how that's influenced your role at Xerox today?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me today. Looking forward to our time together. And yeah, I would say that interesting is a good word. It's because over the course of my career, I've probably spent half of it as a technology buyer and an implementer, growing up in technology and operations and middle and the back office, really looking for different technology providers and vendors to help the companies I was working with, help us drive productivity of our employees, or profit growth or revenue growth, leveraging technology. And then at Cisco Systems, about halfway through my career, I had the opportunity to switch and move on to the other side. And the reason was that we were very passionate, a group of us, about leveraging our technology and platforms. We called it Cisco on Cisco, and using our voice over IP, our IP contact center, our IP storage, all of the transformational technologies that were emerging, and helping our clients adopt them, because we were large enterprise customers implementing our own technology, Cisco first, and inside of the enterprise, and relaying that and teaching them how we were doing it. And that then helped me pivot my role into a variety of different jobs in marketing, technology marketing, product general management, sales, etc. And so, of course, my career, I've been either on one side as a user or on the other side as leveraging and bringing technologies into the enterprise. And that's really created a very unique opportunity for me to be able to communicate and drive and leverage change. And I would say that it's not just for myself. Our CEO, Steve Bandrowczak, comes from the same background. In fact, that's how I met him 20 years ago. He was a CIO for Avnet, and I was working for Symbol Technologies at the time, and he was leveraging our technology to drive profitable growth in his organization. And we've had the opportunity now to work together at Aon and now here at Xerox. And so it's just been brilliant having a partner and working with such a great group of colleagues on the reinvention of such a historic and iconic company, Xerox, leveraging technologies and new business processes and technology-enabled business models to drive change.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting to hear that both you and Steve have that CIO background. And as you say, I guess that's really important when you're driving change from a technology and a cultural perspective. So before we get into the details of Xerox's reinvention strategy, could you tell us a bit about Xerox's path to transformation? As you mentioned, it's got an amazing legacy in the office space in terms of innovating for 100 years, I think it is now. So could you share the Xerox overview?
Yeah, here's how I like to think about it. The office itself has been the greatest productivity tool of a century. People went into an office to collaborate, to work together, to leverage everything that was physical, from meeting rooms and capabilities and desks and collaboration space and all of that. And we have such a proud history of bringing technology and digitization into that environment and making the workplace itself more productive for our clients, for our customers. That is our heritage. That is what we do. And it's whether you're in the office or in the enterprise or in production, where people gathered, where people work, where they leverage our technology, our capabilities, our software and our services, we help to drive them and make them productive. I don't have to remind you the massive switch. What's changed in a post-pandemic world is the workplace is not just this physical instantiation of a building. It's become a hybrid workplace, leveraging a distributed workforce. So the mission of Xerox has not changed. It's just the box in which we define ourselves has evolved. And that really creates a huge opportunity for us, as much as it created a challenge for us on what and how physical print worked in the office space. So it's really had to leverage us to be more of a services-led, software-enabled company around our technology and around our products, and really leverage not only that, but a broader partner ecosystem so we could bring capabilities to our clients wherever they live, wherever they work, wherever they play, wherever they learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you mentioned, the industry has undergone some significant shifts over the past few years. And you mentioned their hybrid working, distributed workplace, and so on. I'm curious as to what you're seeing in terms of the impact of that on print volumes and accelerated digitization on the other side. And how is that changing customer expectations for Xerox?
Well, there's no doubt that there are shifts happening from the macro perspective that have impacted print. And some of it is just how people are leveraging and using print. So there are pockets of print that is growing. There is specialty labels. There is all parts of in the industrial side and the production print business that's changing in graphic communications. And we're starting to see some really interesting things happening, not only in textiles, but in wide format and continuous feed and in the production space, but really around graphic communications and how folks are really leveraging that campaign management, the integration of physical media and digital media, driving growth, and how do you use and leverage that? So embedded barcodes, et cetera. We're also starting to see more knowledge about documents, because it's not just about the printing of the document, it's about intelligent document processing. And as we're starting to see these trends around AI and generative AI and ChatGPT, well, those types of things need good quality data. Good quality data comes typically from good quality documents, both historically and current. And so we have to blur the lines between what's actually print and what's in non-print, converge those if we're really going to get the best leverage of the technology of the future. And then there's this whole desire to go green, and what is the cost associated with it? What are the technology disruptors in this space to also be conscious of the print environment? So let's grow print where it needs to grow responsibly in some of those areas, and where it is actually we're seeing secular challenges in those marketplaces. How do we introduce the digitization, the new technologies in this place? So there's just an awful lot of shifting, but you know as well as I do that there are billions of pages of print happening each and every day around the world, and it's not as if print has fallen off a cliff, but it certainly saw a very precipitous decline in the pandemic. And then has returned to more normal, kind of predictable declines in the certain parts of the business where better alternatives to physical media are presenting themselves, but it's not eliminated the physical media. That's just morphed into other forms and other uses. And I'm certainly one of those people that is a hybrid user in a distributed workforce, leveraging both print and non-print technology.
Yes, and I think you raise a really interesting point there, that it's more about the document than just the printed page, and how data and analytics are really key to helping your customers understand where they need the printed page or where they can have a digital page. And Xerox is, clearly very well positioned to bridge that gap and provide solutions and services around that. So that's really interesting to hear your perspective on that. And I think that leads us quite nicely into the Xerox reinvention strategy, and how is that addressing some of these key challenges that you're seeing amongst your clients amid this changing economy?
Xerox, as I said in the beginning, has always been a client-first, client-centric type business. And so if our clients are successful, Xerox is successful. And everything that we face at Xerox, our clients are facing. So their workforce is now distributed. Their workplace is now hybrid. They're dealing with the secular headwinds. They're dealing with the tailwinds. They're dealing with these new demands. And so we wanted to make sure that we morphed our business to be more responsive. And in particular, since the business has changed so much, we have to deconstruct it from what it was and what built it and what was so successful to what it needs to be in the future. And that often requires a very different kind of structural impact. And for us, that turned into saying, look, if we're going to be client first and always, then we need to meet our clients where they are with the products and solutions. And we need to bring them more and surround print with more capabilities. So we converged our company into a single business unit capabilities, where we took our IT services business, which supports the platforms, our digital services business, which is more software and services, so big S services led, tech, break fix services, IT services, digital services, and surround that around print. And we want the voice of the client to be heard and the people in Xerox to be empowered to be able to respond to that. And so as you can imagine, when we had silos of different disciplines and technologies, each of them had difference of opinions as to what was the best way to reach these clients and meet them in the market the way they did. None wrong, different. by geography and by product line, whether it was enterprise, production, low end, workplace, etc. We've consolidated all that. So now we basically have reduced the decision rights, as you will, to fewer people to make decisions to go faster, purely to make it easier to do business with Xerox and to make it easier to do business within Xerox. And you can imagine our success over time and our global growth makes that more difficult, more rigid. But if we have to have a mix shift of our services, more IT, more digital and print, and then we have to have a mix shift, more partner enabled, then we have to simplify our overall company and be more responsive to clients, more responsive to partners, and make it easier. And that is in the, I would say from the start to the bottom, as simple as I can make it, what the reinvention has been all about is the deconstruction and reconstruction of Xerox in a new format for the next decade.
Yes, and I think it's interesting hearing how you're repositioning the company in that way, because I guess if we think back when Xerox initially started, it was really pioneering the office workplace and first photocopier, and it really was the gold standard in terms of sales training in this industry. And as a result, you have some very strong partner base. Can you talk about a bit about how you're approaching your channel and how you're helping them drive growth? Because as you mentioned, it's all about customer centricity and them understanding their customer requirements, and ultimately the channel being able to execute on Xerox's strategy as well.
As part of deconstructing the company and reconstructing it, we, for the first time, have built a global partner program with a global partner leader. So Jacques Edouard, who leads that in our organization, a member of our executive committee, has a responsibility globally for our indirect business. So every element of our indirect business, and then looking for ways in which we can grow together with partners, because the partners are more local with our clients in many cases than we are. And they have differentiation and capabilities that we could bring together. And so enabling that partner ecosystem, growing it, developing them, and investing in it is equally as important to us, because we want in our mix shift to be more indirect and grow with our indirect business than we currently have today, and then more in our direct go-to-market capabilities and simplifying that as well. So you can see it would be fewer solutions, but trying to get greater penetration with those fewer configurations in a broader approach, because the secular market is challenged. And so we have to right size it for the world we're in, not the world we want it to be.
Yeah, and actually just picking up on that point about skills and training, I'm interested in your views around the demographic and the generational impact of the younger generation, Gen Z, millennials coming into the workplace. And obviously that's not only challenging the use of print, but also those age groups within channel partners as well, I think has an impact. And are you seeing that Xerox, even as a company, is able to attract that younger workforce? And how is it doing that? Is that through this kind of broader training and development and retention strategies?
Well, we're very fortunate. It's super interesting. And when I came to Xerox, the Xerox brand was absolutely understood what Xerox was. I mean, very rarely do companies achieve the ability to be a noun and then a verb. We're very proud of that in our history. But the truth is, what it means to these newer generations and what it has meant to the previous generations is different, because, I grew up understanding that, and I use the words, let me Xerox that for you and so forth. And that's not the same type of brand and acknowledgement that the next generations have, but they absolutely do love the history and the legacy and the understanding, and they love to see Xerox, and they want Xerox to be cool. And I say that with a smile on my face, because as I travel around the world in different offices and I meet with our younger associates, I'd say the one thing that makes us such a terrific company, something I'm super, super proud of, is not only does Xerox get up every day and everybody in this company put the client first, I would say that whether it was a very long tenured employee or a very short tenured employee, the energy and the excitement and the passion to drive client success and to serve clients is first and foremost in both of their minds. And so there is a ton of people inside of our company that want to invest in the next generation and pass that on. Well, I've never been in a company that has had more fathers and sons, fathers and daughters, mothers and sons, mothers and daughters, cousins and so forth inside the company. It's not, and I'm not trying to say that this is a nepotism type business. Don't misinterpret that. It's the pride that I've seen that people would say, I've worked here and I've spent decades here and I want, my son, my daughter to work here as well. But more importantly, the son and daughter that want to work here as well. That means a lot to us because that means that they have felt that Xerox has treated their family and their parent well. They want to be part of that. So there's an awful lot that's passed down. There's awful lot that's in the public domain, and there's an awful lot of pride that wants to be put in that. But make no mistake about it, the next generation is a lot more fickle than the older generation, and they want to know, what are you doing to invest in me? What's available to me? So everything that we just talked about our sales, our training academies, goes beyond just sales. It goes into product development and engineering. So it's important for us to embrace our heritage and to value it. But at the same time, we have to diversify our revenue sources. We have to be more modern and sustainable. We have to create investment for future growth. This services-led, software-enabled, wrapping services around our print offering to add more value to clients is very much a big part of that. And our journey that we're on to do that is an investment in those areas. And I find that our younger colleagues are super excited about that because they think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really inspiring to hear. And I think, you mentioned the really interesting point again around the younger generation. And I think also they're very concerned with the environment, and they value companies that are focusing on sustainability and driving down their own environmental impact. So based on that, I know Xerox has got, a lot of initiatives in that place and is working very hard to enhance its sustainability credentials, but also help its customers. As you mentioned there's two approaches. Is there anything in particular that you're seeing from a customer perspective in that they're increasing the importance of sustainability in their RFPs? Are they really looking to Xerox to help them reduce their environmental impact around print and digital services?
The whole carbon footprint initiative and people truly understanding their overall operation, what it means, has been phenomenal. And this is Xerox has been a leader in this space forever. So people always look to us. And yes, we are seeing it in RFPs. And yes, we are seeing very specific questions that are being asked. And at the same time, though, it's much broader. So to the point is, okay, so what does print mean to the environment? How do we handle any of our toners, our inks? All of those are uses of paper. But what about our truck rolls, serviceability? How do we use AI for service delivery? How do we use more self-service and not have to dispatch a human being in a vehicle with a part? And so people are looking at the entire ecosystem in ways and saying, well, if we want to reduce our total carbon footprint, it goes more about what it is that vertically you can do Xerox for us, but what can we also do to help you Xerox and better service us? And what we're finding is these are all mutually beneficial topics, because if we're going to use AI for service delivery and we're going to use more augmented reality in our CareAR platforms, or more, as I said, AI for SD, these types of things also have a positive environmental impact. But you know what else they have? They have an improved customer satisfaction, customer success impact, because the time between reporting an issue and repairing an issue is shortened. The ability for someone to help thyself is improved, et cetera. And so we're seeing that availability, performance, sustainability. Look, these are all connected, and it's how do you think about them? And all these macroeconomic trends, and face it, inflation, interest rates, the desire to go green, all the costs associated with it. These technology disruptors like AI, ChatGPT, and the rise in cybercrime, its prevention, they're all impacting clients and changing what they look at in their existing vendors and help them solve that. So we're not only seeing it in the RFP for sustainability, we're seeing it reach out and hook on to other parts of it. And as a systems integrator, as a technology company, we're happy to meet our customers there and differentiate our company, our platform, and our services in that space.
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting in here, understanding that how Xerox is helping its customers achieve those business outcomes around reduced environmental impacts, improved efficiency, productivity, and as you mentioned, reducing risk through mitigating cyber attacks potentially around print and digital services. And in terms of what Xerox is doing with workflow automation, because I think it's really important to highlight that Xerox has, long had a real sort of strong heritage around workflow automation, digital solutions, and so on. And I know you've got a very strongly vertically focused solutions range and services. So could you tell us a bit about the specific verticals that you help around workflow automation and how that's really sort of helping your customers improve efficiencies?
Yeah, so, a part of our reinvention and this growth in a declining market and the changing mindset and all the things that I talked about, our management discipline, our go-to-market approach, really segments the markets in two ways. The SMB, small businesses, medium businesses, are very different than the large enterprises. The large enterprises enjoy having sophistication of talent, chief information security officers, chief information officers, head of operations, business op, technology, procurement. You go down the list. There's proficiency, there's experience that these companies enjoy. When you move down market, you start to get to 500 seats in a company or less, and then 100 seats or less. You don't really often have all of those types of capabilities. Those companies look to their partners. And we cross the threshold of hundreds of thousands of those businesses each and every day. And we're already a trusted partner in that space. We're behind their firewall with our managed print services types of capabilities. And they look to us for what else is it that Xerox can do for them. And that's where our IT services and our digital services really come into play. That's more of a fit in the SMB space as a systems integrator of choice than in the large enterprise. It's more solution orientation for choice. So let me just give you a couple of different examples to think about this, and I'll tie the broad to the narrow. I'll try and do it as simply as I possibly can, right? So you have to be vertically integrated and understand workflows and intelligent document processes in the small and medium space. So if you're serving law firms, how do they do e-discovery, and how do they do contract management, and how do they redact data? And what is it that needs to be redacted, what needs to be secured, et cetera? And then how do you store that in digital repositories and physical repositories, et cetera? That vertical integration in the legal is the same as it would be in state and local in the United States education or internationally, as well as people do language translation of tests or scan. It's the same for voting registration systems and scanning voter registration cards and merging it with online voting registration. These are points of where digital and physical come together, and Xerox is at the fulcrum of that type of capability with our full breadth of services. Now, when you get into the larger enterprise spaces, larger enterprises are looking for intelligent document processing in the same way to ensure that the data that is sourced from documents and the data that is sourced to documents can be secured. They understand authorship. They understand all the terms and conditions, because you can imagine in a world, if you want to do a search or use ChatGPT or types of things in the future, what makes ChatGPT and generative AI so interesting in the public domain is actually a concern in the private domain. Because what happens in the public domain is all of this information is public, and therefore the bots get to source it very brilliantly. But where there's a gap in data and information, they fill it with something that's called the hallucination. And the hallucination actually uses AI and machine learning to make it cognitive. So it takes 80% of what it knows and it fills the 20% of what it doesn't know, and it makes the stream look like it makes sense. That's why you can ask ChatGPT so many things, and it sounds so great. 20% of that, 15% of that, 30% of it might be a hallucination. And that's okay in the public domain. In the private domain, however, no one is going to publish all of their capabilities into the private domain, into the public domain, because that would not be secure. That would be putting your documents, your contracts. And so they can't, and you can't afford a hallucination. You can't afford a term and a condition. If you're in the legal vertical and you want to know, what are the terms and conditions of certain contracts and limits of liability, and it hallucinate 20% of it, that would be a bad thing. Or hallucinate who the author of a document might be. So that's where enterprise large language models will come into place and emerge, where today large language models in the public domain are sufficient. They're insufficient in the private domain. And in the private domain, companies like the Googles and the Microsoft and others are going to differentiate themselves in creating capabilities for document processing and digital technologies in that space to bring enterprise LLMs into these enterprise verticals that should also be available to the SMB. Xerox is perfectly positioned in that space to be a partner of choice to help on that, both capture and content services, client engagement services, intelligent document processing services, physical print, all the things that we do in that space to offer that up so it could be a source to enterprise LLMs as well as improve public LLMs. And so I hope that it sounds very confusing, but I hope you understand that what we're trying to say is that the consistency here is blurred, right? It is not about the ink or the toner on the page. That is an incredibly important thing to do, and we will always be the best at it by quality, by cost, by every measurement, because it is an incredible important part of an omni-commerce and omni-channel approach. But it is a part. We also have to do something with that document once it's scanned, once it's moved to a digital repository, it's made available to an enterprise LLM, made available to a public LLM, secure it, cognitive AI, generative AI rather, ChatGPT. These types of things are all part of what we have to do. So you can see, Luella, this has gone so much beyond printing in the workplace and workplace cloud. But guess what? All of those workplace solutions that we have built and differentiated our company on are the on-ramps for all that capability, because we already have a secure tunnel into these SMBs. We're already a trusted partner. We already have metered services. We already have capabilities. We have to enrich that. In order to enrich that, we have to simplify our business. We have to bring down our costs in areas where we need to invest in those areas. And that's what our reinvention is all about. It's the repositioning of our business, the deconstruction to the reconstruction to meet those needs as we move over in the future, and to make it easier to do business with us in that world, because we weren't built for that over the course of the last X number of decades, but we need to be built for that for the next decade.
Yeah, and as you say, it's all about reimagining the business and not abandoning the core business, and still focusing on print, but really understanding and helping your customers and guiding them in terms of how they transform those document processes. And Xerox has always had very strong, as I mentioned before, workflow automation capabilities, and now that it's AI enabled, it's really interesting what you were saying again around enterprise LLMs. We've seen in our research as well there are still concerns, not only on the ethical side but also privacy and data security around using those LLMs.
And we're hoping Xerox is a trusted brand in that space that understands this, and people will see the value, that's driven in this place. But look, you said it. This isn't the first time Xerox has had to reinvent itself. It has a strong and a proud history of recognizing where it is, and then morphing itself, because again, it's about the clients. What's going to make a client successful, and how do we adapt ourselves to that? And that's what this phase of this reinvention is about.
Yeah, and I think we've covered quite a lot of ground, and I wanted to ask a few more questions, just in terms of the helping the audience understand where Xerox is positioned in terms of the kind of competitive landscape, because there's been quite a bit of market consolidation, and I'm sure that's going to continue. And I'd be interested in your views on aspects such as joint ventures between Ricoh and Toshiba, Fujifilm, Konica Minolta, and also Fujifilm coming into the European market with their new A3 devices. How's that going to impact Xerox? And obviously there's a historic relationship between the two companies previously, but really interested in your views on market consolidation.
It's a terrific question, and you nailed it. In a secular challenged market, industry consolidation needs to occur, because if the market is emerging, then the number of people that produce types of things and the number of things they produce has to be rationalized to meet the needs of clients, what the clients are willing to pay for, the accessibility for it, and what it is that they want to do. So it is a natural phenomenon. So when we see the types of announcements like the Ricoh one you mentioned, we celebrate that. We think that that's a good thing at the end of the day for the consumer, because that means that the industry itself is looking for better ways to bring products and technologies to the market in the most cost-effective way as possible. So that industry consolidation, we support it. We want to be a participant in it. We want to be part of the consolidation as it makes sense. It's what's in the best interest of Xerox for long-term profitable, sustainable growth, because we have needs for not only our clients, for our shareholders. So we're always going to be very strategic in our thoughts on industry consolidation. But we think it's necessary, and we support it completely. And as it relates to our partnerships, we have a very strong and proud heritage with Fuji Business, have had it forever. Now, it was a joint venture for a long period of time. Now it's more of an arm's length supplier. So things evolved within that, but that hasn't changed the tone and or the spirit of our work together. At the end of the day, when Fuji Business and Xerox work together on behalf of clients, the clients win. We bring more competitive solutions to the market, more capabilities.
I think as from an analyst perspective, we see it as a disruptive force, but also a positive development for the overall industry. So like you say, it's a market that's consolidating, but there's opportunities to continue to differentiate. And on that point, just as a final question, given that the Quocirca audience to the podcast is generally a lot of channel partners, do you have any guidance for having talked about diversifying the Xerox business and the need to move beyond the core towards IT services, solutions, workflow automation, and so on? Could you share any tips or guidance for channel partners who are, potentially listening and trying to figure out how they can move the needle in terms of solutions and services? Because you have got many mature channel partners that have done that very successfully, but there's still a need, and even as the market becomes more commoditized, a bigger need to differentiate around software. So any guidance you can share would be really good.
We have a phenomenal partner ecosystem, and my guidance to them is to continue to push us as they have. We are not always the easiest business to do business with, and we recognize that. And I stood up in front of an entire partner conference and made commitments of the things that we were going to do to make it easier to do business with us and to make more of our offers available to them. And right now, I was just talking with our team as to putting out an update to that same group of the types of progress that we've made in that space, the investments we've done, and what we've done. It's all really come from the voice of the client and the voice of the partner in this space. We recognize that, I'll use generalities, a third of our partners like the traditional parts of our business and want to continue to be strong in those traditional partnerships. We love that. We want that. We need that. We want more of that. We want them to be better at that. There's about a third of them that really want to push in the digital services and the IT services space. And frankly, they have local offers that we want to figure out how to embed them into our environment. We need to be a better participant in a broader ecosystem. And we know that the Xerox brand and capabilities, we can do things with much larger platform players like Dell and ServiceNow and some of the other partnerships, and bring capabilities that could enhance that third of the part of our partner ecosystem that's really looking to drive and add services in that space. And we have to rethink our partner offers. And that's why we put Jacques Aguard and an entire team over our indirect business, because we have to have more offers that are more partner centric, because we are measuring our progress based on the amount of revenue that we drive through the partner ecosystem. That's our mix shift. We want to see more diversity in our product offerings and more diversity through our partners. And so we're being very specific. So them raising their hands and pushing us is what we want. And the third in the middle, they're sitting on the fence watching. Am I going left? Am I going right? Am I here or am I not? And that's fine too, because I think that we're in a show me world. We can sit here and have all this great conversations in the podcast, but if we're not doing something different in the market, if we're not bundling an offer more simply, if we're not making it more available quickly, if we're not actually contracting on an IT service or a digital service differently, or perhaps embedding their IT services and digital services around our hardware in a different model, or they're taking the lead in a partner-led approach versus a Xerox-led approach, the traditional heritage of how we've done this business is being dramatically informed by the feedback we've gotten through our partner organization on how to be better. Because if they can grow their business, then that's going to help the mix shift of us being more through the indirect partner channel. So I would say that my advice to them is to engage, embrace and direct this change that's happening inside of Xerox, because you have a very ready and willing executive team and an entire organization that's trying to drive a reinvention of our company to be more partnership-centric, partner-enabled, to better serve clients. So if there was ever a time to do it, it's not the easiest thing. You might have to repeat yourself. You might have to hit us over the head. You might have to shake us every once in a while. We're up for it. We know it. The one thing that we will not be is the DNA of failure. Denial, nostalgia, and arrogance is what large companies that have had a strong heritage in a particular business get stuck in. They're in denial, they over-rotate on nostalgia, and they tend to sound arrogant. And we have to remind ourselves, if we're going to execute this reinvention, the DNA of failure cannot be in our vocabulary. And that only works if we have a strong, vibrant partner channel that's pushing us hard. So my advice to them is get engaged and push on Xerox.
Yeah, I love that, the DNA, and I think, as you mentioned, it's all about avoiding complacency to drive growth and change, and you rely on your channel to execute that. So now I really appreciate you taking the time to join me. It's been really inspiring and fascinating to hear about Xerox's reinvention strategy. So many thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. Look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please go to quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.